the intent for the racial profiling law was to, number one, determine if racial profiling is happening with the officer within a department, that there is a way the state can get rid of that person and to stop that conduct. What, when you step back and look at what we've presented here with the unreliability of the data, what appears to be some non-compliance with some departments submitting it, questions over whether audits are being performed, comparative analysis not being turned into the state, and then some of the points you've expressed where TCOLE appears to be limited in what it can do to hold these people, these departments accountable. Sitting here today, do you believe that what we've now laid out with this reporting and the compliance and some of the problems highlighted, is the racial profiling law doing for the state of Texas what the state of Texas intended for it to do when it was passed more than a decade ago?
That's a tough question, because I mean, is it doing positive things, and are many areas doing it correctly and trying to use it correctly? Absolutely. And so it is doing some good. Is it a universally across the state being done exactly the way it should be done? History will tell you, and my experience in dealing with law enforcement in Texas is there will be places where it's not doing what it was intended to do. It doesn't mean that the legislation was bad. It doesn't mean that the setup is wrong, and that it just means that there are some people that they don't like it, and they're going to do what they can do to sidestep it where they can. I mean, that's human nature. With some people are just that way, and there are chief administrators that are like that. So I don't want to be so judgmental of it to say that it yes, doing what it's supposed to do, no, that it's not doing any good. I think that's an oversimplification. I think it does a lot of good. I think the law that was passed and the way it's done has an effect in this state. Is it perfect, and does it need a constant improvement and working to make it better? Absolutely, it does. That's part of how all this process works. Nothing you can pass will work perfectly. You've got to constantly tweak it and work that way. I will tell you, I appreciate in your interview, number one, I appreciate your numbers that you have about saying about non-compliance, because that I'm not aware of that, and I would like to see that. So thank you for agreeing to send that to me. I'm also looking at, on the comparative analysis, the audit, it doesn't say they send to us with the comparative analysis. I agree with you, it does. If we can find a way to make that doable, then we should do that, and we will do that. And it's an ongoing process. I will say that we're working diligently to ensure that they do gather what they're supposed to gather, that they do get that in where it can be addressed. And now, as far as, like you said, the validity of it, that's going to be up to local control to deal with. But you brought up some good points in the interview, and I would appreciate working with you on it. I really would.
Sure. It's I've just had a thought about this.
I hate it when that happens.
I know, and it happens to me all the time. My head.
Wait till you get old. You're not old. Wait till you get old. It happens more.
See that right there? It's coming. It's coming.
Don't give me that.
Well, I guess, if today, I mean, obviously you guys are going through sunset. This particular situation isn't within the realm of the current sunset reports that are out, but obviously could be, legislation. That's a wild card. Who knows what may come in that? I know you guys hide behind the desk, seeing what's coming with that. But if you could have a list today, is there anything that you would suggest a legislature do when they come back to fix, the auditing, the comparative analysis? Is there anything that you could propose to the legislature that would solve what appears to be some cracks in the racial profiling reporting law in Texas?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't think that the wording, I don't think the law needs to be changed. I think a lot of what it's going to come back to, what does everything come back to? Uh, Resources, money, the ability to do it. If I'm an agency, a small agency, at like 60%, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but a high percentage of agencies in this state are very small, 5 officers less, 10 officers or less, and they have extremely limited budgets. And so you've got a person hired as the chief administrator out here making $35,000 a year is what they make to be a chief, with no working budget, no training budget to speak of. And then you say, well, that you need to do this comparative analysis. You have to be realistic about that too, which is what we try to do. We try to get as much in as we can. And so where the legislature can help this is giving those resources, helping them with those resources to get this done, because the local entity may not have those resources. The agency itself tremendously doesn't have those resources. And nobody that works there may have a clue about how this is supposed to be done. That's the Texas I need to work with. Texas has amazing officers and it has amazing agencies that do a really good job, but it has a wide variety of agencies with a wide variety of knowledge, as far as the auditing and analysis and this type of stuff, and a wide variety of resources, that we've got to try to work within that scale. And it's easy to say, well, the Austin Police Department, they'll do this. The Lubbock Police Department, they can do this. But you talk about small town police department out here, 3 officers making $30,000 a year. They don't have this expertise, and they don't have this knowledge, and they don't have the money to hire somebody to do it. So you want to be fair to them too. I don't want to go out and hammer them because they're not capable of doing what this is saying they're supposed to be doing. You got to do this right. You got to be fair about this. So does it need to be done? And I appreciate you bringing this up at that level. We need to work with them more. We do, and help them do that. But I also can't expect miracles out of people that don't have the ability, the training and education necessarily on this type of material. That doesn't make them not a good chief administrator. It doesn't make them not a good police officer, but they may not have this expertise, and they don't have the resources to hire somebody to do it. So help me work with them. You see what I'm saying? That's what I tell the legislature. If you want to make this effect, help me work and work it into a system where they have those resources available to them to be able to do that, and they can get that done.
Yeah, I guess the final point is, and this is from since Miss Linda Harper Brown lassoed TCOLE and said, "Oh, you're coming in now and created this is your problem," some years before you got here. But and I appreciate the point you're saying is you guys are dealing with a variety of socioeconomic departments, and but within the statute, it doesn't say if you cannot afford to perform a comparative analysis. The statute is very clear. You shall do this. You must do this. And then it also lays at TCOLE's feet in subsection E. It says you shall develop the guidelines, which you guys did for the raw data to come in, I guess we'll call it. But it says on a finding by the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement that the Chief Administrative Law Enforcement Agency intentionally failed to submit a report required under B, which is part of that is the comparative analysis, that the commission shall begin disciplinary procedures against the chief administrator. Based off what you said before, as far as where you all are trying to work with these departments, is it safe to say, and this lawmaker made this point, that she felt that it was an embarrassment, and that's her words, that these agencies weren't performing it, they weren't turning it into TCOLE, and that TCOLE was not forcing these agencies to turn this second half of this report in? She called that an embarrassment and a failure to Texas. But I wanted to ask you, is it safe to, or is it a fair characterization to say that TCOLE may have dealt with these agencies with too soft a glove in making sure that they fully comply with this racial profiling reporting?
I believe if that's the the verbiage you want to use to say too soft, that's what you're going to use. What I look at and what we try to do is help facilitate them doing that in any way that we have within our resources, and to not punish somebody because they don't have the capability of doing it. The law may say it, and I'm all for that, but it's got to be doable. You know what I'm saying? Is it too soft? If I've got a chief, you know, one word that you said here that really strikes home with me is intentionally. They're intentionally not doing it, and there's a culpability that goes with that. It's very strictly defined in law. Is it intentional on the part of the small town police department, small town sheriff agency, small town constable's office out here, that they don't have the resources to hire the report to be done? They have no idea how to do it themselves. For me to go out and hammer them over that, I think what we need to be doing is help them get to the point where they can do that. And that's what we're about here. Are we the regulatory agency? You betcha. Could I hammer people that are put in that position because they didn't comply with this? Yeah, I could. Is that the right thing to do? Is it fair and right? Are you being too soft when you don't go out and say, well, I understand you don't have the money, and I understand you have no idea what they're talking about here, how to do this, but I'm gonna come at you anyway, and I'm gonna punish you for it. I don't think that's the right way for the state to go about it. Not just TCOLE, that's not the right way for the state. If you want this done and they are not capable of doing what you're saying you want them to do, then we need a way to help facilitate them to be able to do that. And so, no, I won't say that we're being too soft. I won't say that at all. What I say is we're being fair, and we're trying to work with agencies to get this done and get it done right, more than we're trying to be punitive toward agencies that don't have the capability of doing it. So I fully agree with the law. I think the law is a good, I don't think it needs to be changed. I don't think this next session, they need to come in and fix anything there. What we need to do is help those that are not capable of doing it and allow them to be able to do it. And make it in a way where they can actually fulfill the law. And that's what this agency should be about. If somebody needs to be hammered, I have no problem going after and punitively going after them, both for their license or for civil penalties. But when it's not culpable on their part, they're not doing it because they just choose to not doing it and they're being recalcitrant and they just don't want to do it. That's not what I'm seeing. If it's not being done, if this isn't being done in many of these instances, we need to be more diligent on that. You have really made me look at that. We need to be more diligent on that. We'll do that. But we have to be fair about how we do it. And it's got to be doable if you're going to do it. So that's my response to that. I don't think we're being too soft on anybody. I think we're trying to work with a wide variety of budgets and sizes and locales and everything that comes into play in that. And that's the world in which I work as the head of this regulatory agency, is understanding that and trying to help them get where they need to be within the restraints that they have. Okay.